Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod Maverick. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined by Josh Bowe. We are both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. We are coming to you here with Pod Maverick After Dark. It's a little after 9:30 on Wednesday, March 19th. Josh, how are you?
I'm okay. About all you get, I think.
Midweek. Ugh.
I don't know what else. Still in the dark. Mavericks still have not won. I refuse to turn on my closet light until they win. That's the new bit.
I didn't realize that until I read some of the comments. It's a fantastic bit, and I like that you're sticking with it. So, for those of you who are somehow unaware, the Dallas Mavericks snatched defeat from the Jaws victory in a 135-131 loss to the Indiana Pacers in what was once again a remarkably entertaining game for the fact that the Mavericks had 8 available players, including a recently returned, this is first game back, Jaden Hardy and Kai Jones. Brandon Williams did not play. Klay Thompson was a late scratch. And Brandon Williams didn't play because of his hamstring. I think they're trying to stretch
that out.
Stretch that hamstring, use the games. I think we're getting a little up to the wire there, which I'm sure you and I will talk about at some point. But this was a game where the Mavericks were down 17 in the first quarter, or at least midway through the second quarter. And I'm sitting here going, well, I don't know what Josh and I are going to talk about. And then, the Mavericks just didn't look very good. The Pacers looked crisp on offense, like they didn't play Tyrese Halliburton or Ulyss Trinity's own Evan Turner, Miles Turner, and I don't even know why Turner didn't play.
No, Turner did play.
Did he play, or was he just not playing?
He played 22 minutes and then got sent to the Phantom Zone in the fourth quarter, I guess. By Rick.
That shows you how close of attention I was paying to this one. Like, Rick was out of his gore. Like, this, let me be clear. This was the most Rick Carlisle-ass basketball game I have seen in a very long time. And what's so funny is the Pacers have had the Mavericks number. They have really just run the Mavericks off the floor several times, really embarrassed the Mavericks. And it was just one of these games where early on, the Pacers are just running away with it, and you're thinking, okay, this is something else. And then by the end of the third quarter, led ironically enough, because he ended up being kind of one of the real losers in this game, Jaden Hardy played a heck of a basketball game right up until he didn't. He was making some shots. He was just doing kind of just classic Jaden Hardy chicanery. He ended up being a plus 10 on the game, but he scored 24 points. He hit 3 of 6 threes, which meant, let me do the math here. So he was 5 of 7 from 2-point range. I mean, that's like, is that right? No, I'm an idiot. He was 5 of 7 from 2-point range. So it's about as nice a game as you could ask for a scoring guard coming off of a really ugly looking ankle injury. This was just kind of the game you could have hoped for in the fourth quarter. The Mavericks ended up leading by, I think, because you didn't actually how did you watch the end of the game? Were you just like listening on the radio?
The final, I headed down to my car because, sorry guys, real life comes up. So with about 2 minutes left, I started going down to my car and I turned on the radio when I think they were up 7 with about a minute left, and then I had to make some phone calls. So and then when I got back to the radio broadcast, I heard that the Pacers were like, the Mavericks were shooting free throws and the Pacers had a chance because I think the Mavericks were only up 2. So it went from like, this is, I took a phone call when it's like up 7 with a minute left. That's game over. Like
Game's over.
You should not lose those games. Even if you just held the ball and didn't shoot, you should win that game. So for it to go from that to then turning the radio back on and the Mavericks need to make some free throws or they're going to lose. and then they didn't make the free throws and they lost.
So things start to go sideways, and we'll just kind of recover. We'll just go through the play-by-play of the final minute. Mathurin hits a couple of free throws at literally the minute mark to make it 128-123 Mavs up. Jaden Hardy gets stripped by Shepherd. Shepherd hits a layup 5 seconds later. So it goes from being a 5-point game to, let me see here. Yeah, the Mavericks were up 128-121 at the minute 07. You're right about that. So those 2 free throws plus it goes, the Pacers score 4 points in 5 seconds to make this really uncomfortable. Then it becomes a kind of a free throw shooting contest where Washington misses 2 key ones. I hope I've not looked at any post game chatter, and hopefully he doesn't have anything to say tonight that would complain about Mavs fans, because he had a chance to seal the game and he didn't. Nembhard missed a free throw and on a ensuing foul. And so the Pacers, after making one, the Pacers are still down 130 to 128. Max Christie turns the ball over in one of the more, like, if you're a tanking enthusiast and you think the Mavericks are doing this on purpose, go watch this play again. This was like some elementary school shit where he's holding the ball up high and somebody just comes from behind and takes the damn ball. It was bad. Like, it was one of those, like, how did you let this happen? They kicked the ball around and Andrew Nembhard hits a 3 to put them up 1 with 16 seconds. So to recount from a minute 07 left in the fourth quarter to 16 seconds, which is roughly 51 seconds, the Mavericks allowed 8 points to be scored. And
that's hard to do.
It's really hard to do. And honestly, like there's a lot of people out there, oh, the Mavs are tanking. This was not tanking. This was just really, really bad execution. And so at that point it becomes a free throw contest and the Mavs lose.
I mean, good Lord, Mavs tanking. I mean, are the Pacers tanking? I mean, the Pacers should have won this game by 25 points. Like, I could not believe what I was watching for most of the third quarter and the fourth quarter. The Mavericks scored 40 points in the fourth quarter. 40 points. They played 8 guys for like the 10th game in a row. No Kyrie Irving, no Luka, none of their centers, no Anthony Davis. They have 1 point guard on the roster, and it's Spencer Dinwiddie. They're starting Kai Jones. They're starting Kessler Edwards. Their bench, the only 3 guys come off the bench is Hardy Powell and Max Christie. Like, I have so many questions for Indiana and for Indiana fans. I don't understand how you watch this team. Like, the only thing about this stretch, we've been talking about these games and we've been coming on every podcast is like, what do we talk about? Because not only is the team so injury decimated that the season is kind of over, but also the people that are playing are not necessarily all building blocks for the future. So it's not like, oh, well, you get to watch this young kid play. Like, Omax isn't playing. Christie is fun. But like Kessler Edwards and Brandon Williams and Kai Jones are not going to be on the roster next year.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that are doing a lot of the work. So like it's a 2-prong where it just feels really pointless. So we talk about like, how do we even talk about this team? And then like for Indiana to be down 11 points with 5 minutes, like that was some of the most embarrassing defense I've ever seen from an NBA team. I mean, it was one dribble move from the map. Like, they weren't running offense.
Nope.
They were literally just one dribble move, layup. One dribble move, layup. One dribble move, layup. It was crazy.
I want to circle back to that, but Yan Wong reminded me, and I don't know why. It's just because it's been 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden Hardy committed.
I heard that on the radio.
Committed an offensive foul that was a really, I'll just say it was a 50-50 call at best. Hardy had his arm high, and did he push off? Absolutely. Was he being held? No question. At best, this was a no call, but he flopped so hard. Whoever was guarding him, it might have been Mathurin. I really don't remember. It was rough, and it's just like, come on, man, because the Mavericks might have scored again. Because what you're talking about is pretty important, because they put the Mavericks just had no respect for who were they attacking over and
Pascal
over?
Siakam.
Pascal Siakam. Like Siakam
have some pride, dude. You've made an all-NBA team.
Like PJ Washington dunked on him so hard that he ended up curled up in a ball on the sideline. It was bad, man.
I saw that one. I could not believe the layups that the Mavericks were getting in the fourth quarter and some of the third. Like it was, and again, Rick his best shot blocker basically didn't play for most of the set. Like, did Turner have an injury that we missed? Like he had 3 fouls in 22 minutes. That's not amazing, but that's not like, oh, he's in foul trouble. Like the Mavericks, they don't have a center. Their center was Kai Jones. Like,
who had a great game, by the way.
Talking about it. Which is hilarious. His two games have been awesome. Like the Mavericks just keep finding these guys.
Followell is so excited about Kai Jones. It's really funny.
I don't blame him. What do you?
You
got to find something.
Shots. I don't think he's missed like 2 shots as a Maverick. Who cares?
Yeah, 21-8 his first game, and now 18-11. Like
pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, like he didn't put Turner back in, and they just. Again, it would be something if the Mavericks were, if Kyrie were still healthy or like, I mean, seriously, they weren't even setting screens sometimes. Like it was literally Najee Marshall maybe catching the ball off a dribble handoff and then kind of sizing up and then just blew by his defender and scored a layup. Yep. PJ, that dunk that PJ had on Siakam was just like nothing. He just took the ball and dribbled and dunked. Like I sound like an idiot trying to describe this, but the Mavericks weren't doing anything fancy, and the Pacers.
It was like a guy who shouldn't be on JV playing against JV players.
Yes,
just like being very mean. It was very funny.
It was serious. Like I'm being hyperbolic, and I've watched a lot of basketball in my life, so I'm sure I've seen worse. But that was the worst NBA defense I've seen in a long time. What the Pacers did, it was crazy. And credit, I'm sure some people are going to be mad. Like, well, the Mavericks played well. Like, it wasn't just the Pacers. And like, I get it. Like the Mavericks keep trying. Like they don't roll over, which is, again, testament to the players still on the roster. And then, I know no one's really a big fan of Jason Kidd right now, but for whatever reason, he cannot lose the locker room. Like they still play hard.
Playing so hard.
Like, I don't know what they have to do to like give up on the season. And they just like, cause everything that's happened, they should give up on the season. And the Houston loss and the Philly loss were the first 2 games. I was like, okay, here we go. Cause the Houston loss, they lose by 1 billion points. And then Philly is the only team in the league that has a worse roster than them right now. And they're down by 14 at home in the fourth quarter. So there's a part of my brain after that Philly game. I was like, okay, is this it? Is this like, are they going to start getting drilled by 28 points every game until the season's over? But no, and they got back.
Really admirable. Like if you're and I think after what's happened to the Mavericks this year, I've become a believer in a firm believer in the basketball gods. And if you're a believer like that, you have to believe that what the Mavericks are doing and how they are playing is pleasing because they're in a horrible situation and they're doing the best they can. Like I'm getting text messages from my friends in Portland who are like, what are you guys doing? Just win the game. And I'm like, I promise you that ain't tanking. This is just bad basketball. Yeah. They're so, maybe you could kind of question some of the roster things, but honestly, I think they're having to juggle guys around. I mean, Kessler Edwards has 1 game left. Like the Mavericks are just in this weird spot where they can't do anything right. We're going to pivot a little bit to some news, and then we're going to get on out of here just because Josh and I are I'm pretty exhausted after my week, and I think Josh sounds like he's had a day. But this is silly. There's really nothing else to be said other than the Mavericks are playing bad basketball, but they're trying their asses off. So
yeah, they're giving up like 60% shooting like every game because they have no defense because they have no centers.
Right.
The teams are just scoring layups on them every game, but they're kind of doing it right back at them. It's really funny. The one thing I'll say is that their offense has not been as bad as it should be since Kyrie got hurt and really since the injuries. And it's kind of funny. It's a double-edged sword because their small lineup is why their defense sucks. but I think their small lineup is why their offense has been awesome, because they've been pretty much playing 5 out for like a month, and the draft, maybe that's why the driving lanes are so
they have
open.
a lot of interesting finishers.
Yeah.
Like PJ, for all his, like, he'll occasionally miss like a really easy shot, but then he'll make something that makes me go, what the shit was that? And Spencer, same way. Max Christie's getting an opportunity to Najee's probably my favorite example of somebody fun to watch. Max Christie he's got a lot of refinement to do in his game, but there's really some there. If I hope he can work out like the long two tendency from his diet, but I don't know. If you're enjoying watching the Mavericks, and if you're still watching the Mavericks, you're either doing it because you're a true sicko or you just love the team. I mean, these games have had interesting enough things with them to where it's not like they're getting drilled by 35 points every game, like you talked about.
Yeah. And for your Portland friends that are like, why are they are they tanking right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they were tanking, they were, like you said, they were down 16 in the second quarter. Like, you don't go from that to up 11 in the fourth if you're trying to lose the game.
Well, all right. So now I think we should pivot to some news. I'm going to read to you a quote from Patrick Dumont, and I don't know where he said this, but this is
Dallas Morning News interview.
Dallas Morning News, the interview.
Townsend.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this was the one he gave to Brad Townsend about a week after the trade. This is a quote, Patrick Dumont. Shout out to Brent from our staff who remembered it, included it in this article today. Quote, "That's who we want. I'm unwavering on this. The entire organization knows this. This is how I operate outside of basketball. This is the only way to be competitive and win. If you want to take a vacation, don't do it with us." End quote. Now, I'm reading you that in the context of Anthony Davis being filmed golfing yesterday in Plano, which a 7-foot-tall guy golfing never looks normal to me. But the golfing plus the news from Tim McMahon went on ESPN and talked about this tonight, that Anthony Davis wants to play come hell or high water. A lot of mixed messages going on here, because McMahon also said he's not really close to coming back, but he's practicing and like really trying to come back, and the organization is trying to dissuade him from playing, but he wants to play. There's just I'm one thing I will give Cuban was the fact that they all spoke from the same hymnal. It was all bullshit. Like, everything Cuban said was bullshit all the time, but at least it was the same bullshit. Now we're getting told that Anthony Davis wants to play and they don't really want him to, but there's really not much they can do about it, because if I kind of think the Mavericks are going to make the 10th seed regardless. So
he's going to have to play.
Right. He's going to have to play. Like, they might need the warm body. So it's I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this? I'm just kind of like, whatever.
So I think the golfing thing in normal circumstances is not that big a deal. Although I'm not a doctor, but playing golf
strikes me as hurting, right?
Yeah, when you have an abdominal abductor injury, I don't know if golf is the best sport to play when you've got that issue going on. But again, normal circumstances, I don't think this would be that big a deal. It is funny that, like, it is objectively funny that he's doing this after that Patrick Dumont quote you gave, and after the Mavericks leadership for about a month now has leaked to the press and and also kind of said on record that they thought Luka didn't care about working hard and being a top athlete, and he liked to drink too much and he liked to smoke hookah. And then the guy you trade for, who's supposed to be like the antithesis of this, which Nico kind of hinted at, and that only presser he gave when he said, we want guys that add to the culture, not just go along with the culture. And then you say all that, and then you got him smoking and playing golf while he's hurt, and it's just, and again it goes back to what we were talking about when Dumont, in that same interview, when he listed all of the great hardest workers, and he talked about Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal, who Shaq very famously said he didn't work that hard, and Michael Jordan, who fucking played golf before games and fucking gambled the night before, which again, it's not trying to be like those guys did. No, it's just like, when you're that good, you can kind of do whatever you want. Like, you get to set the terms like when you're that good. Michael Jordan can gamble before the night and play golf the next morning and then show up to a game because he ended up being the greatest NBA player of all time. Shaq cannot really give a shit during the summer because he was one of the 5 best centers that's ever played the game.
Mm-hmm.
So Luka having a problem with, enjoying a beer every now and then, it's not that big a deal. Like all the greats did this kind of stuff, which is just kind of funny. And it reveals the hypocrisy of it all. And it's just, as if the Mavericks ownership and leadership didn't need egg on their face anymore. I mean, this just kind of, just adds on to it a little bit more. And again, it's nothing like I'm not mad at Anthony Davis. Like this is nothing really to do with Anthony Davis. It's more just Mavericks leadership, like Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes again. That's kind of what it is.
I think that's a pretty accurate summation there. Yeah. I will say, so you and I talked to Tim McMahon last week, and a lot of people were like, I fucking hate Tim McMahon. Derp, derp, herp, derp, derp. I didn't really get a chance to address this on the show with him because we were really trying to ask him questions, but I just can't stress enough how much I think you guys need to read this book or buy it and hold it at some point. We know a lot of the information, but he shares some stuff in there that's pretty incredible. But then he also has a follow-up chapter. And if you've read any of the follow-up chat, well, you probably haven't, because none of you guys have gotten the book. Jake Kemp of the Dumb Zone talked about the final chapter today on his show. And he called Nico a name I'm not really comfortable saying, despite how much I curse when discussing the chapter. And I started laughing. Like, essentially, I'll just put it to you like this: Nico Harrison is a flaming giant coward who wanted things his way, and on the way out, it utterly embarrassed himself. When you pair that, and thank you for somebody in the chat reminded me of this. No, to answer JB's question, this is actually a good question. Doesn't Tim McMahon hate Luka? No, you guys are all children with this stuff. None of these guys really dislike each other. They have to be together all the time. Like that, including the beat reporters and the players. Sometimes they have really heated disagreements because that's how professional working environments are. Very rarely do players and media people really hate each other. Now they might ignore each other, but they don't hate each other. All right, so circling back to what I was getting at, and this final chapter, it's very clear. It's very clear that Nico Harrison wanted things his way or the highway. And honestly, man, I'm coming back to this. I kind of think that between the financials and with how bad it's going to get at the Mavs Lakers game on April 9th, I don't think Nico Harrison is going to have a job after this year. I'm willing this shit into existence. He needs to be fired. He is an incompetent idiot. Period.
I just think if he can convince ownership to trade Luka, he can convince them to give him another year.
I think that's a really good counter argument. I just think the financials are going to be drastic.
Yeah, that's true.
I said this online, and you and I've kind of beat it around this. The only guard that this team has going into next season that's under contract right now that can play basketball is Jaden Hardy. He's the only guard. This team has no guards. It has all big men.
And Kyrie's not playing till when? All-Star break? After All-Star break?
After All-Star break.
Christmas at best, which is 2 months.
And I was talking with one of our friends, a guy who shows up on every live show live stream that I do during the game when I'm watching it over on playback. Shout out to Wupo. And I said, let's just go look at the free agency list, because we were kind of arguing about this for fun. The free agent guard list will make you like viscerally upset. Even someone like you who doesn't.
Does it even matter though? Can they even sign anyone? Like,
that's the other point. They're nearly hard capped. They're hard capped. I don't know. It's a disaster. Like, it's just a disaster, and it's like this is an extinction level event for the Mavericks. Is where I'm settling. Only like the asteroid has hit, and we don't seem to understand that our food supply is gone. And after one more harvest, we're fucked. Like, no one seems to get this. I feel crazy talking about it.
I'll be very interested to see what TV ratings and ticket sales look like next year, because I think obviously some of that's going down already, and that's been reported. I think our buddy Tim Cato talked about, like, they lost 2,000 Mavs TV subscribers. I think that was a couple weeks ago. They lost there's definitely, I think, a sense, because all this happened mid-season. There hasn't been a clean break. Like, some people still have tickets that they've already paid for that they're going. They can't get rid. Like,
yeah.
So, like, what's going to happen when there's an off season and people that that are still subscribed because they're just either they paid for the full year package, or they're just subscribed still because there's still games going on and they don't, they're just like, whatever, I'll just wait till the end of the season. Like, when there's that break and people are like, okay, I'm canceling this. Okay, I'm not renewing my, I'm not buying more tickets. And then you get to the season starts and it's like, well, I'm not re-upping. Like, that's when I think I'm going to be curious, because that's when there's potential for it to really look bad in terms of, like, how do you get the ownership's attention? Because that's how you get the ownership's attention, is you don't spend money on the product.
Yes.
Like, you can chant fire Nico all you want during the games. I'm not really discouraging people from doing that, but if you want to get Patrick Dumont's attention, you affect his bottom line, and that is the fastest way to get a man like him his attention. So once there's actually like a clean break, the play-in's over, they're into the off season, and people are have an opportunity to be like, okay, well, I'm canceling my sub. Now I can cancel my tickets, or whatever. I'm out of my tickets. I'm not re-upping for next year. I'll just be curious to see what that looks like, because I mean, without Kyrie there to start the season, like, that's going to be hard to sell tickets. Like, I know Anthony Davis will presumably be back, because I don't think they're going to totally blow it up this summer, but who knows? But, I don't know if he's enough to, I don't know if he's enough to sell tickets, but we'll see.
Oh, it's so terrible, man.
I know, it's pretty crazy.
Okay. I'll be back Friday. Yep. I'm here with my parents. I want to do a live show, but I'm kind of in a bad situation for a while. I'll tell everybody more about it later, but I can't do that right now. So please keep hanging out. Head over to Mavs Moneyball. We actually had more written stuff than I would have thought. Josh is writing the recap tonight, and he'll get that done, and we'll get on with our days. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. We appreciate all of you. Go Mavs.